Welcome everybody to RxSight Ed, an educational series brought to you by RxSight, where we share light adjustable learnings with this new and fantastic technology. I'm here tonight with my friend, Dr. Brett Mueller out of Texas, and he's going to share with us some of his work and implementation tactics for using this lens. Now, before we do, I want to thank RxSight for having this event to share these kinds of pearls with our viewers. I'm Matt Jensen. I'll be moderating tonight's conversation, former practice administrator and practice operations consultant. Dr. Mueller, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how your program, what it's focused on, and how you've used the light adjustable lens so far in your program.
Absolutely. So first off, I'd also like just to thank RxSight for this opportunity. And then also, Matt, thank you so much for getting me on here to be able to spend some time with you and chat with you about this. And I think this is very exciting, this technology. And, when I just recently just started my practice here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area about 6 months ago. And when you're a new startup, you don't have a lot of funds, don't have a lot of money. And so, but you're trying to buy a bunch of different equipment, a bunch of different things. So trying to figure out, okay, what do I allocate for? What do I need to do? And the big thing that I'm trying to accomplish with my practice is really just being a surgically only based practice. So being able to offer the greatest in terms of technology when it comes to cataracts, and then also for everything refractive surgery. So what do I need to purchase, or what do I need to get into my practice in order to be able to deliver that premium product, that premium material, and that premium experience for each and every single one of my patients? And when I started kind of going through it, I actually made the decision to purchase the LDD and to invest in the RxSight technology, which I have used for many years prior, but just for my own practice, I was like, man, can I really afford this technology? But I realized that patients were coming in asking for the adjustable lens. They were asking for, hey, I know that there's all this great technology, but I want that adjustable technology. I want that adjustable lens because I've had friends that have it, and it's like they're just raving about how great it is. And I actually had one patient that came in, and I was actually doing post-ops care for them for a friend of mine in Houston that did LDDs on them. And she goes, yeah, I Googled online and said, who does the most LALs, or who gets great results on Google. And it brought me to a surgeon in Houston. So even though she was only 2 minutes away from my practice, she drove all the way to Houston. Excellent surgeon in Houston that did the case. I was helping out with some of the post-op care, and then she's doing all the adjustments and stuff down in Houston. And this was probably like 4 weeks in. And so I actually, at that time, I was like, man, I really need to get this technology into my practice because I am losing patients left and right. And it was actually, I'd only been in practice for maybe about 2 months. It was actually at the Outliers meeting where, we were both there, where I actually pulled the trigger, said, all right, I'm getting this device, signed the contract and everything. And I am so glad that I did. It has been awesome in terms of helping me to give that technology to patients, to being able to give them that adjustable lens technology that they're looking for, and giving them just a different set of options when they're looking at terms of how they're going to be able to see better and see the best as they possibly can after cataract surgery.
Well, there's a lot there to unpack, Dr. Mueller. And one of the things I want to discuss with you is, here you are starting your own practice from scratch, right? You've used the technology prior. How did you imagine? Did you do kind of some back of napkin math to find out how many lenses it would take? What was kind of the final tipping point where you thought, maybe I can do this?
I had done some like preemptive math in my head, but when you're 6 weeks in and you've already had 5 patients, 10 eyes saying that they want to come in here and get that adjustable lens, and that if they said, we love you, you're great, but if you don't have this technology, I'm going to have to go somewhere else. Where should I go and get it? The math is already makes sense in order to be able to get this device for me.
That's a great story. And especially since you've done it, you've used the technology prior, and now
Yes.
you get to use the technology again, but set it up however you want. I want to talk about that for a second. So how did you set up the flow, the choreography within your 4 walls?
Right. So initially, you come in, they do the initial cataract evaluation, and then they have the procedure. Then after that, what we do is we do a lot of collaborative care, co-management. So they go and do the 1 day, the 1 week, and the 1 month with their ODs. The ODs are doing the refractions as well and helping us out with that. And then once they detect stability within the refractions, then they send the patient back to us. And so right now it's me and and then Dr. Becky Miller, who's my optometrist that's working alongside with me, that also helps with the adjustments and that helps with doing the post-operative care. And we actually dedicate right now one block during the week to be able to do it, because even though I have 5 exam lanes, I don't have them all fitted out. I only got 2 fitted out. So we're actually like a really tight knit, kind of, very early starter baby practice going on. So we have to be very intentional with our time. And so what we have done is allocated Thursday afternoons to our LDD treatments, and that's worked out very nicely for us in the early stages.
Okay, so this is a really great example, and I really want to highlight this because we've talked to large practices, medium practices. We've talked to what we thought were small practices. You said it right. You're a little baby practice,
We are.
right? And you're just getting started. You've
Yes.
got 2 exam rooms fitted out, and then you've got the
Yep.
LDD in another room.
Yep. LDD right here in one of my other exam rooms. So
Okay, and so then, I mean, give me a sense. I'm not going to ask anything proprietary, but give me a sense of what your volume is 6 months in with the light adjustable lens.
I mean, with the light adjustable lens, I mean, we are doing at least probably about one eye every week right now,
Okay.
which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I will ask this question: from where you were before to where you are now, are you charging the same? Are you charging more, or are you charging less?
So I am charging more than my multifocal package. So it is my top tier price package, and it's relatively similar to the other practices that I've been a part of, and that was utilizing the LDD
Okay,
technology.
great. What other infrastructure changes did you make? Looks like the LDD is in its own room. Is it? Are there adjacencies? What does the flow look like on the light treatment days?
Yeah, so the light treatment days, they typically come in. And what we've really noticed with specifically the LAL plus technology is that these patients are already seeing very well. So prior to the LAL plus, where you just had the LAL, which I had amazing results with that technology as well, but it usually would take a few more adjustments to be able to get them before they were locked in. But on average, we're doing one adjustments and then we're like locking them in. So we're talking about 3 more additional visits that we're having to allocate for. And so, and we typically do it, the LAL treatments, when I'm in surgery. So Becky Miller, my optometrist, she's able to do it, to be able to handle it and being able to do the treatments for me. So that was another reasoning why we elected to do it on that Thursday afternoon. And so, and then, from an infrastructure standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, is just also getting the words out there, just knowing that there are patients in the Dallas Fort Worth area that are Googling LAL and RX site, and that the biggest hits that they're getting are coming from Houston. It was like, all right, we gotta beef that up a little bit more. I think one interesting point that has occurred with this technology is that patients, they understand the word adjustable and they understand the adjustable lens. Whereas when you talk about multifocals, you talk about torics, you talk about astigmatism, like patients don't really understand that. They really have a hard time understanding lens technology, what the cataract is and everything. But for whatever reason, that term adjustable lens, patients understand that and they see the value in that. And they see that they get to like test drive their vision and be able to come in and not make that full commitment right at the time of surgery, that they actually have time afterwards to even improve their vision even more and more and more.
Dr. Mueller, as you've been launching this technology in your marketplace, how are you going about educating the referring and collaborative care, the primary eye care providers? How are you bringing them education in your marketplace?
It's it's really interesting how fast the word has already been spread to our ODs. Like they've already, at least it's hard now versus like a couple of years ago when I was going out and educating them about it. A lot of people hadn't heard about the LAL device or the LDD, but now many of our referring doctors have already heard about it. So and they love it, and their patient outcomes that they're getting are great too. So it's more of a factor of, I mean, then you might find a few that may have not heard about it. And so educating them about, just similar how I just described how I talk to patients about it, that we have this technology where we can make fine tunes and adjustments to their vision and being able to help improve it after the cataract surgery has been done. But really just educating them that, hey, like, even though we're the new kid that's on the block, like we're the new game in town, but we can offer every single technology for your patients at Mueller Vision here in Dallas Fort Worth. And then them hearing that, knowing that, it's like, wow, you guys can already do all. It's like, yep, we can offer it all when it comes to cataract surgery.
That's great. That's great. What's the biggest challenge you found as you've integrated this into your practice?
The biggest challenge right now, I mean, the one thing that we do notice, and I've noticed this in the past, is like they do develop a little bit of like a PCO potentially a little bit earlier than what you would get versus with a regular acrylic type of lens. So that's one thing that we just kind of just notice a little bit. So when do we do the YAG procedure, and is it in between treatments and stuff? And so that's one thing that we've noticed. Another thing too is that there is a condition that happens after any type of eye surgery that people get, where they get this kind of transient ocular dryness that does occur. And so kind of trying to be preemptive about that and treating ocular dryness even before that we know that they're even going to get it. So before the surgery even starts. So that way we can get better visual outcomes and better refractions on the post-operative side.
Excellent. Now, you're talking to a group of ODs right now tonight, and you're thinking about why you have added the LAL to your practice and where it sits amongst all the other offerings that you have. How do you distinguish it?
I view it as this technology that we have that we can offer to patients and say, it really, the one thing that we cannot predict after cataract surgery is how someone's eye is going to heal. I mean, I use laser, I use a stick, I try to go after every single bit of refractive error as I can and leaving somebody emmetropic. But most patients are going to end up with some little bit of residual refractive error afterwards. And this technology gives us the ability to, like, it's almost like having LASIK, which I feel is like the most precise device that we have in terms of getting people out of glasses, out of contacts, and eliminating refractive error. It like gives us that sort of level of precision, but in cataract surgery. So yeah, we have patients that are out there and yeah, they're happy. Of course, they had their cataracts and maybe they're seeing 20/30. They got like 0.75 SIL and they're not complaining. They're like, you know what? I can see way better than I have before. But we know that they can see better than what they can. But if they're happy, 20 happy, hey, out the door, you're doing well. This gives us the ability to get those not only 20 happy, but 20 ecstatic type patients to be able to get that astigmatism from 0.75 down to 0.5, down to 0.25. And I mean, ODs that I have done surgery on, like their patients, and then they're going back, have seen the results of it. And in fact, a lot of ODs are like, man, if I had to choose between what type of lens technology that I would want to get, a lot of them are electing the LAL and say, hey, I would really like to get this LAL in my own eyes. And I personally, if I had to choose to, that would be the technology that I would pick if I was having cataract surgery today. But I mean, I really feel it is the technology that gets us as close to emmetropia as possible as what we have right now.
That's exciting. Now, you've got a lot of colleagues and friends in the industry, and you do a lot of education. What do you say to the folks who walk up to you and say, "Hey, I saw your session on RxSight Ed, but that lens, I mean, it just takes way too long."
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, and so the first thing I would say is like, well, let's look at your systems, let's look at your process, let's look at your clinic and figure out how can we expedite that and speed that up. I mean, that's one thing that I can really commend RxSight for, is that they will bring in a team of people to try to help and figure out your specific needs in your clinic and how can we orchestrate a clinic flow to make it to where you're not feeling the hiccups, you're not feeling the backburn, you're not feeling those types of bottlenecks. And so, I mean, of course, being open to that. Before I even bought the device, before I even opened my doors and saw my first patient, I was already having the RxSight people come in and be like, all right, guys, how are we going to do this? How are we going to plan this? And so we had already had multiple conversations over and over and over again. And so, for us being this early on, starting out, like we had decided, it's like, all right, well, let's do it on a surgery day. Let's have Dr. Miller. She's going to be coming in. She's going to be helping you out. And then we just do it on that Thursday afternoon. And for now, that seems to be working out best. Now, that's probably going to change as we grow and we get bigger. But I think is being adaptable and figuring out in your business model. I mean, we don't want to be stagnant in our business and our business strategies. Like we got to be adaptable and being able to change. And I think having that mindset and then also being humble enough to say, hey, I need help. Like, help me figure this out. And RX Site will bring people in there to be able to help you figure out the best strategy to do that.
Okay, so let's say you're talking to a practice who's just now, they're considering purchasing the LDD and starting on this journey. What advice do you have for them?
So first off, I would say my initial thing was say get RX Site like involved early as you possibly can. Or if you don't want to talk to RX Site, like they can put you in touch with other practices that are also very passionate about it and figure out, okay, how do they kind of implement this? Because really the biggest thing that you can face with this, the biggest bottleneck is that if it's not being implemented appropriately in your practice, and you really want to try to get that going very early on and get them in, like they'll come into the clinic and they'll like observe and like say, okay, well, maybe if we made this change here or this change here, that would help to speed up and to expedite the patient flow. And I think that that would really be the biggest thing that I would say, hey, like get them involved early and often. And then the next thing is like, okay, so once you get that going, this technology is phenomenal and it really does help patients to be able to see. And it really is a practice growth that you can see in terms of growing the amount of premium IOLs that you are doing for your patients. A lot of people think that's going to be taking market share away from the percentage of patients that are choosing premium option. And I would actually say, I actually think it's a practice, or it's actually increasing the market share. It's a practice growth. It is increasing the amount of patients that are getting premium IOL options who necessarily may not have seen the value in it because they see that value in the adjustability of lens. And having that is an option for them at the time of cataract surgery. And so I would say that being sure that you educate them appropriately about that and conveying that value so that that way they know what they are getting when they're having that lens technology put in their eye.
Really great, really great. I've worked through all of my questions, Dr. Mueller, and that's as painless as this whole thing is.